as a veteran politician who served in this country in different portfolios, what would be your advice to His Excellency the President?
I think the President is in the right track, but he needs to be firm. He only needs to be firm and make sure that what he says is implemented. And make sure that when he talks about against corruption, he makes sure that he's firm against corruption. Because this country has so much, has a lot of resources. If he can just fight corruption, focus his energy on corruption and make sure that at least half of it, just half, and particularly the people he has put in positions. If he makes sure that the people he has appointed are not corrupt, he will have done 90% of the work. Because if those people are not corrupt, they will help him to fight corruption.
Good morning, welcome to ABTV Kenya. I am your host Asha Bashir. Today we are privileged, honored and humbled to have the Mheshimiwa Fred Gumo. Fred Gumo has served this country in different portfolios, but what stands out is his humility and the fact that he decided to retire from active politics, giving chance to young crop of leaders. Welcome, Mheshimiwa.
Well, I have been in politics nearly most of my life. In fact, I was employed for a very short time. And after school, I went to Kenya Polytechnic. When I finished, I worked a bit with the government for a short time, for about a year or so. Then I became a mayor of Kitale in 1974. At a very early age, I was just about 27, 28 years old. From there, I came into Parliament in 1979. Then stayed in, I was out a bit for about 5 years, came back again. And I've been there all the time, in Kanu. Then obviously later when, after the multi-party, we came in ODM. By that time I was in Nairobi. Because when I lost, the president appointed me, President Moi then appointed me chairman of the Nairobi City Commission, where I was for about 4 years. Then I came back to Parliament through Westlands, where I've been up to the time I retired.
Mheshimiwa, tell us the journey, because the young viewers and Kenyans watching, how has it been, that transition that you worked for a year and decided to join politics? What was it that made you transition? What was the push or the urge that made you now decide, I don't want active employment, I would want to venture into politics?
Well, it was mainly my colleagues, because at that time I was in Kitale, and the majority of the officers, the senior, the researchers who are in agricultural research were my friends. Some of them who had been in college together pushed me. They told me, why don't you stand? We are working, you have now left, and why don't you become a councillor in Kitale and get it so that you can be assisting us. I was not very keen, because at that time, being a councillor was not very important. Many people didn't want it, didn't like it. But these colleagues of mine pushed me into it. So in 1974, I stood as a councillor, and I won by only difference of 5. I defeated my opponent with only 5 votes, because I was not even known. But my father had been in the area for some time, so people knew him. So majority of the people, I would say they voted for me because of my father, because I was not known much in Kitale at that time. Then, same time, I became a mayor. By that time, it was not very easy to become a mayor, because we had only 15 councillors in the Kitale municipality. And to campaign within 15 people was not easy. But I managed to become the mayor of Kitale. Then after that, I became a member of parliament for Kitale in 1979. So that's how I joined politics.
In your tenure as a mayor, how was it now transitioning from a councillor to a mayor? What are the key things that Kenyans can now, and the people of Kitale can look back and you can tell them, I ensured this and this happened while I was the mayor?
Mayors were not earning much. Because first of all, we were just getting allowances. And you had to own some property. You had to have some property to be elected as a councillor, because there were no salaries. And when that's why, in fact, I was mainly elected because of my father, but I had some property in town. And when I came in, there had just been one mayor after the Mzungu who had been there before. And we embarked in developing the town. There was no water, so we built a big water project from Cherengani, from Zoya River to Kitale, which is still existing. We also did tenant housing, which, because you see Kitale, there was which was built by National Housing Corporation. I also managed to bring in the President Polytechnic, which was then, Kitale Technical, which was built by the Swedish government through the Swedish ambassador then. She was a lady. She invited me to Sweden, and when I went to Sweden, I convinced them. They asked me what they would like, I would like their government to do for us. And I said, okay, give us a polytechnic or a technical institute. So they built a very big technical institute in Kitale, which is now a Kitale Polytechnic. And well, we did fairly well. We did quite a number of roads in town. But what I'm very proud about is mainly the water project and the technical institute, you see, it was very big. In fact, at the moment, the governor is even talking of turning it into a university. You see, there hasn't been much development since then, because that is about how many years? Since we built it in 1977, and that is a very long time.
Very long time, yes. Mheshimiwa, now transitioning from the mayor, where you've done a very good job, the current crop of leadership and the young people who are not abreast with, are not very keen on the political and leadership spaces, what would be your advice? Because like you said, the mayor had no resources, you know, but somehow using your portfolio as the mayor of Kitale, you ensured there's something that you could leave the community with, and now looking back, even after retiring, you can actually say, that is my project. So what would you advise these young people who basically believe that politics is about now having enough money in the pockets, that I have money, then I can vie. If I don't have money, I'm not good enough?
Well, I think the society has now changed. During our time, we never used any money. I never used any money. Even here in Nairobi, in Westlands, apart from the money I used to pay to the agents, I used to very little money. You see, because if you are a young man and you come up through your fellow young men and you are able to assist them, they'll give you support. You see, in fact, the only problem today is that although people want money, but also there has been this party politics, that if you are not in this party, you cannot win. You see, today, there are many people who are elected just because they are on a party. Not even because of
the track record.
The track record. That's why we are having problems, you see. should be that people should decide on who can represent them, who is able to represent them properly. Because the country has been ruined because of this party politics. Because if you are not a member of a certain party, you cannot win. Let's say, for example, where you have ODM party, which is, if it is strong in a certain area, let's make it, say, call it Nyanza. You can't win
if you're not in ODM.
Unless you are in ODM. And then now even in UDA, it's not easy to win when you are in a challenge in
Rift Valley.
Rift Valley particularly. You can't. So that is the thing that is now destroying this country. Because people now tend to fight very hard to become representatives of the party than of the people. And that's what's causing problems. If we can, if people can know that so and so would be a better representative than even if it's independent.
Independent, yes.
Then things will change. But this idea of parties,
it's taking us back. You vied the first time. How was it now transitioning from a mayor and now going for a member of parliament seat?
Well, you know, that time we were in one party. We just Kanu. So I just decided to stand and try, and I managed to get through.
And you beat a very powerful person at that time.
Oh, yes. But you see, I think it was mainly the young generation. You know, at that time, the youth were very powerful. Because they used to say we must have one of our own. And if they decide to put you in, they would put you in. And that is why, you know, this idea of people saying that, oh, we are always being told that we are leaders of tomorrow, I don't know what, that thing doesn't really exist. You can organize your own, you can organize the youth to support you. You can see even in Nairobi here, if you go to this parliament, majority of the people are very young. Majority of them are below 45. And those are young people. When I became MP at that time, I was 32. So the youth have a very big say in this country. So what they should be doing is to identify some younger people who can work for them. They don't need money. You don't need money if you have got a following. You don't. If you have got committed people who are giving you support, who know what they want. The only problem is that majority of them, when they get through, they forget about
the people who helped them. Yeah.
But if you work...
The politics of deceit.
Yes. If you work with the people who brought you in, you should be able to be there longer. That's the only problem.
Now, Mheshimiwa, when you transitioned from an MP and now you took a break for some years, how was it the change from now being an MP and you took a break before now you decided to go for the next?
You remember this this time of Mlolongo?
Yes.
That was the biggest problem.
Yes.
For many people. And very many people lost at that time because of Mlolongo. So, because, you know, there was no proper recording. There was, you could never know who was one and who was not one. But, and you see, sometimes they could just throw you out even if you are popular. And that's how I ended up.
Because there was no accountability.
There's no accountability. But you see, when President Mori realized that it was not fair for me, that's when he appointed me chairman of City Commission.
And which worked in your favor eventually.
Which worked in my favor, and that's how I came up in Westlands again.
Mheshimiwa, there are people who vie and try and lose election and actually decide, I'm not going back. How was it? Because you see, we are learning from you who has already been there. That time that you went for the Mlolongo and you felt, yes, I'm not now the member of parliament, whether I won or whether there was rigging or accountability, but bottom line is I'm not the member of parliament. There are people who, in this current day and era, who, after losing elections, sink into depression and say, I do not want election. What would be your message to those people in regard now to what you went through at that period?
Sometimes it depends on age. I would say that if you are young and you lose an election, you can still make it back. You can see when a good example is Mudavadi. Mudavadi lost elections and he was vice president, but because the age was in his side, he still came back. You see? But when you are old, it's a bit difficult because when you are old and you stay out for 5 years, to come back, 5 years is a lot. But when you're a young man, you can still come back. And many young men have gone back. I'm not the only one. Many. People who lose elections when they're in their 30s, even 40s, they still come back.
And if you're in your 50s or
But
60s?
50 you can still come back in 50s because 50s is still a young man. But when you're in your 60s, I think it's a bit difficult.
It's good to bow down.
It's not very easy because you see, a lot of people who grow in 5 years. So if you are 60, you'll be 65. The next cycle, and that is a bit too much.
Now you transitioned and came to Nairobi.
Yes.
What made you decide? Of course, you said the president had appointed you, the then president Daniel Arap Moi. But now, what made you now decide Westlands and not any other part in Nairobi?
No, you see, I was brought up in Nairobi. I was born in Kaloleni. So, in fact, I would say, even initially, if it were not for my friends who are working on the research station, my intention always was to be a politician in Nairobi. Because I had more friends in Nairobi than even
in the rural home.
In the rural home. And even here, when I became MP here, when I became chairman of the commission, I became more powerful here because many people knew me. I was not a stranger. It's not that I was brought from Kitale to Nairobi. I was a Nairobi person. And it was easier for me to work and even fluctuate around. But you see, at home, sometimes, you are dealing with people you have never known. Most of the young people just admire you because
you're from Nairobi.
But otherwise, here, this is my home. Even today, I still feel I'm more comfortable in Nairobi than even in Kitale.
Because young people grapple with where should we buy. So I guess your message is, as a young person, be where you feel comfortable and you feel you have
Yes,
people.
because if you are brought up here, you see, like whenever I was campaigning, majority of the people who used to campaign for me here are the people we grew up with. They would come from all over Nairobi, from Kaloleni, from Maringo, from Jericho, from Makongeni. They would come and help me. And that's why I used to win by a very big margin. They would come all over because I was one of them. And if you ever visited my office, even when I was a minister, most of the people who were there were from Nairobi here, from all over. And even today, if I walk in this street, because most of the young people now are the children of the people I grew up with. And their father used to tell them that, for Gumo, we grew up with him. So they have that attachment.
Mheshimiwa, how was it now becoming the Member of Parliament for Westlands? Because we are now facing a crisis in leadership where we find people come in and become the Member of Parliament at any level in the country, whether in Nairobi, in the cosmopolitan areas or in the rural areas, and they get to power and forget the mandate that the people gave them. What can you attribute your biggest success for the people of Westlands who you served in Parliament for many years? What can you look back, like the way you said when you were a mayor, what can you look back and say, Westlands, I did this for you?
It was a lot of money. So I would give you 10,000 until you go and look for the balance. You see, that way that person appreciates. Or the child is in a big school like Alliance, has been chased away. The school fees was not very high, maybe 30,000, 20,000. He comes and says, I can't afford it. You give him 5,000. Or even 10. And that boy, that parent will appreciate more than giving out, these handouts of 200, 300 shillings. And because of that, I managed to win more people. And they also knew that if you go to Mheshimiwa with a problem, he will assist you. But if you came, that, I can't pay rent. I'm defeated, they have thrown me out. I will not give you. Because you see, 1 month is too short. If I give you money for rent today, tomorrow, next month, who will give you? So such things are never entertained. And you see, the moment people know what type of person you are and what you can do for them, things become much easier for you as a representative. But for school, you see, I built this Kangemi Secondary School. That was my project. Lavington Secondary School. That was my project. High Ridge Secondary School. That was my project. There is Hospital Hill. I built a clinic, a health center in Kangemi. I approached Safaricom. They built a primary school, a complete primary school in Kangemi, down near the bridge. When Safaricom was just starting, that was the biggest project in Nairobi during my time. We upgraded the Westlands health clinic to a big health center. Now it's a big health center. Put their beds and many other things. So we built quite a number of primary schools like Kiumbuini. You see, City Council used not to, those days, they used not to build, do harambes for primary schools. But sometimes they could start a primary school and they leave it uncompleted. So we completed quite a number of primary schools which were not completed by the City Council. So those are the main projects, and they can be seen, they're still there. They can be seen. So you see, politics in Nairobi is not like the rural area.
What is the difference, Mheshimiwa? Because maybe viewers would want to know what is the difference, because you served both as a member of parliament at home and now here in the city.
In Nairobi, for example, you need to work very, very closely with these days they are MCAs. Because by that time, if the city council was organized, at that time, I think they were very more organized even than today. You could approach them to do for you a certain project, and they would do it. And they did quite a number. So if you worked with the councillors, it was much easier. Because in Nairobi, we used not to have many Harambe projects. No. Because City Council was taking over the projects. So your influence over the city was very, very important. Because you see, Nairobi is such a big city, and it has got a lot of resources if they are managed properly. Because you see, those days, we used to borrow, Nairobi City Council would borrow money directly from the World Bank. They would manage their affairs without the government. And even now they can do it. It's only mismanagement. There are so many resources because rates only. When we were here as members of parliament, the city council was the one demanding money from the central government. The railways, Kenya Railways owed them so much money during that time, and even the government. So it's just management. Nairobi County does not need the government of Kenya if it's managed properly.
It can be a fully fledged entity on its
It
own.
it's a government on its own. But because of mismanagement, na hii tamaa tu ya watu kutaka pesa. That's the problem. Otherwise, this is a place with a gold mine. You know, when I was chairman of the city commission here, we had so much money that we were demanding now money from the government to pay us. Not asking them to give us.
It is the other way.
It was the other way around. Too much. We used to give councillors loans to buy cars. Even if you wanted a bill to buy a house, you'd be given money. So it was very easy to work as a member of parliament in Nairobi than in the rural area. Because most of the projects, you talk to the mayor and the town clerk, and he does it. Because he takes it as his responsibility also.
Yeah.
So when you go to him, you are just reminding him of what he should have done. And he will be willing to do it.
So what is your take now, because you served here, the current state of the county of Nairobi?
Now it's a mess.
What would be your advice to the current
Because
governor?
you see, the problem today, I think there is selfishness. And the leaders, in a way, compete. That if so-and-so was in this position, and he made so much money, why don't I make more?
More of greed?
More greed. And to me, money, the moment you have more than you need, it is useless. Because if you are a very moderate person and all of a sudden you have billions, you don't even know how to spend it. Money, you must be able to spend your money well, and you must know how much you have. But the moment you don't know how much you have and you don't even know how to spend it, that is why you see Wazungus who are rich millionaires give out donations.
They become philanthropic.
Yes, because now, when it is not being spent, you are keeping it in a container or in a bedroom, then it is useless. So that's the problem we have. That because the other governor had so much, today when I become a governor, I must have so much. And it is not yours, you are stealing. It's not your money. You should be able to enjoy the little money you have. You know, people like us, me, I'm a very happy person. Because I know every little money I have. I know how much I want to spend every day. Because the moment you have a car and you have a house, I was talking to the former head of civil service, Mudaura. He was telling me that, Fred, you are retired. He's also my age mate. You have now retired. Do you really need more than 1 million shillings a month to live on? I said no. I don't even need 2,000 shillings every day to live on. How much can I eat? Even you, how much can you eat in a day?
Very little.
Very little. It's just greed. So unless we leaders get to know that greed does not take you anywhere, this country will never develop. Because we have now brought in a bad culture where people just like free things. I'm a farmer in Kitale. You have got a group of people who don't want to do any work. They wait until you farm, you plant. When it comes time of harvesting, they come and harvest your maize. They don't work. We have that problem now.
Yeah, in the country.
In Nairobi here, somebody can come here, he steals, he gets something here, he takes it, and he doesn't know what it is. It could be a spare of a vehicle which has been removed from a vehicle which is useless. Then he starts running around with it, trying to get somebody to buy. Because he does not know what it is, and he doesn't know whether it is useful.
So the tendency is quick money. The young people are
Quick
more
money,
keen
and you
of
see-
quick money, regardless of where the source of this income is.
Yes, that is, but you see, that's where the problem is. We should, you see, the culture has changed. People don't want to work. There is no sense of ownership. Nobody owns Kenya. Nobody feels that this is my country. Eh. Somebody wants to have his own thing
And go away with
and
it.
go away with it. You see? You know, we must begin feeling that this is our country. We need to look after it. But nobody's bothered now. I'll give you an example. Somebody is elected, is given leadership tomorrow. It's a very lucrative position to work for wananchi. The first thing he does is to see how he can work for himself. And he has got-
Self-entitlement.
Yes, and he has got junior people under him. They see him doing it.
They grow up also in the same system.
Yes. How will you discipline that person
If he steals.
if he steals and you are also stealing? The president has appointed you in that place. And instead, if you found that those things were not, the place was not working well, instead of correcting it, you are making it worse. Regional development is a ministry where people never wanted to go. When you are taken there, it's like you are useless, you should have been sacked.
Because there were no benefits there.
There are no benefits. But let me tell you,
Gumo.
by the time I left the place, after 5 years, the ministry was so big, people were so happy. We had done so many projects and we had so many in pipeline. Including that dam that people talk about, Aurora and so on. It's me who developed it. If you look at the records, you'll find it's me who appointed this feasibility study for it, signed for the money from the treasury to do the feasibility study. We left it was supposed to go to tender stage.
Mheshimiwa, you have talked about Aurora and Kimwarer. Perhaps share with our viewers and Kenyans at large, what are the key things that you'd want Kenyans to remember that you did in the various ministries that you served? Because you served in various ministries, local government, regional. What are the key highlights? Just a few. I know it is a lot,
Well,
but just a few.
you know, the problem is, you know, when I was in regional development, we started up very many projects. And we have only one problem in this country. That when you start a project and you leave before it's complete, it's abandoned.
It goes to the dustbin.
It's abandoned completely. We have so many feasibility studies in this country. When I was chairman of Nairobi City Commission, we had a planning department. Before you approve a building like this, you must first of all know whether there will be, whether the road expansion has been done, whether there is electricity, whether there is drainage and sewer and water. Today, you get a building like that one, 20 stories. 20 stories, a building today, as a residential house. You know, 20 stories means they have to have at least minimum 40 cars. Or maybe make it 30. 1.5.
And you've not talked about sewer and water.
You have not talked about sewer and water. You have not talked about the road. You have not talked how those cars are going to come out of that basement. And how much traffic that building is going to cause. So that's why you find this water that you see giving people problems in Nairobi is because they have been
Poor
built
planning.
on waterways. You know, water will find its own natural path. Now, when you build on it, it has to find a place to go through. And that's why it's now disturbing people. There are a lot of things that you need to do before you build. Nairobi is so large. But some of these people who are building here, they could be building towards Thika, towards Machakos. Because you see, instead of like the other time, they were saying that, oh, they're going to have, I don't know, 20, 30 stories. Let me tell you, that is very inconvenient. If you go to cities like Washington, for example, no new building has ever come up in the city center for over 20, 30 years. They build on the outskirts.
You expand outward.
You expand outside. So if you want those tall buildings, put them outside the city. People will still come and give them transport. Like now, today, if you want to go to the airport with this highway, it's 5 minutes. Give them roads. They will go. But people are so confused. There's a lot of, I don't know, nobody's thinking. And you see, people are taking, if you are the governor and you are taking the work of a planner, you want to approve the plans yourself, then they leave it for you to do it.
And perhaps you don't have the expertise.
You don't have. It's a problem. It's a very big problem. So what I would suggest, the problem, and you know, the president is a very important person. Very, very important. Personally, I believe that the president can stop this corruption. I believe it. Because these people he appoints, he's the only one who can take action against them. And the way we are established, people believe that if the president says, it must work. And even these civil servants know, if he's firm. You remember, today people talk of Michuki. They say, oh, Michuki was strong, was powerful, but he had the support of the president. You remember when he talked about the axles, when he said lorries cannot have more than 3 axles. I mean those trailers. And they refused. They said, the transporter said they cannot remove them because it is going to be, it's going to be difficult for them to pay back their loans, I don't know what. But the moment Kibaki supported it,
it was the end of the story.
It was the end of the story.
So
they used to remove them even on the roadside. Police would come up and say, you must remove it. When he said, you must have safety belts, and every vehicle must have safety belt, even the matatus must have safety belt, and they resisted, and the president supported, they had safety belts.
So you've said we have a lot of feasibility tests, there's a lot of work done. However, there's immediate successors who come once one leaves office, never follow up that.
Yes.
So that means that's wasted taxpayers' money.
It's wasteful. You just have to be firm. And the people must be committed. When you are committed, things will work. But when there is no commitment, it will not work. It does not matter what you do. The setup in this country, and today, in fact, it should be easier. Do you know in every on this road here, the police officer in charge knows who is where. Every day. If that police officer on that street messes up, his boss will know. Because he reports every day what he has done that day. So it's just enforcement. Everything is in place. It's just enforcement.
So in your opinion, like now the issue that I think is important for Kenyans to know was that we have a lot of wastage of resources, because you said even as a minister at that time, there are feasibility tests that were done, of course, with taxpayers' money, a lot of programs, but once you exit, then the project
They are
stalled.
abandoned.
So that means all the money wasted on that project is wasted like
Wasted.
that. And the new person coming in starts their own. Again, before they finish, we stop there and start.
Even plans for roads, for sewer, for sewage. Whoever comes, he abandons that. He starts his own.
Which
There
is wasting.
are certain projects which have more than 5 feasibility studies.
By successive
Yes, because you come, you say you
sitaki hiyo.
stuck here. Unaanza yako. For the same project.
What is your solution towards that? Because that's a big menace.
That's
what
what I'm
would be your
telling
advice
you.
as a veteran politician?
I'm telling you. All these things is just leadership.
If we get it correct, we solve our
These
problems.
things are there. Today, if the president said,
No more feasibility studies.
no more first of all, let us look at the previous feasibility studies. They will be there. You know, Kenyans, there's nothing that has not been done in this country. People used to come from all these places like Zambia, Zimbabwe, to benchmark here, like Botswana. They used to come here. Today, we're the ones who are backward. And these things are there, I'm telling you.
So, Mheshimiwa, now, given the situation in Nairobi, because you served in this county, and this is your county as you put it, with so many buildings you've seen, there's been uproar by the Architects Association and stakeholders and the various resident association having an issue with the county government and saying, wait, you're putting too much structures when there's no, like you actually said, there's no proper plan, there's no approvals, and this will have a ripple effect on the city dwellers. What would you say is the biggest menace in the Nairobi County government? Is it that there is lack of now goodwill to listen to the various stakeholders involved, or is it that we now are prioritizing ensuring we have so many buildings in the CBD and in the environs than looking at the long-term effect and compliance?
Yes, what I would say for Nairobi, for example, we have a lot of volunteers in this town. A lot of people who would like to see Nairobi better. The only thing I would advise the governor, the young man, is my friend. Identify some of these people. Sit with them. Tell them, how do we organize this place? They will help him. We have a lot of people who are ready to support the governor today. A lot of them. He needs just to, he can get as many people he wants from every professional organization. He can. Put them together, get his officers, sit with them, let them say what they think they want to do for Nairobi. And these things will stop. Because you see, it is reaching a stage where it can spoil his name. And there are these professionals who will spoil his name. Call them, let them participate. They don't need to be paid. Majority of them are they would volunteer. Let him just call them and tell them, young professionals in this city, they will help them, I'm telling you. Help him.
Do you think he's delivered in this Nairobi County so far, in the time that he's been in office?
I'm just advising I'm advising him to call these people because people are complaining. Let him call them. There are very many young people in this town who are professionals who would like to see Nairobi better than what it is.
We recently saw MPs affiliate to UDN, of course, also the Member of Parliament for Embakasi, Honorable Babu Owino, the Senator Edwin Sifuna, complain and say, we have a problem in Nairobi and we must address this issue. However, they all said it was difficult to reach to the governor and tabulate these issues and bring, in terms of communication between these two entities.
Yes.
What will be the advice, as you said, you've advised him to call the young professionals. What about the leadership
Let him start
group?
with those members of parliament who are complaining. Huh? Let him call them and ask them what the problem is. You know, this is not his problem alone. It's a problem for everybody. And he cannot do it alone. You see, we are now getting to a situation where we are only blaming each other. Let him call these people, sit with them, those members of parliament in Nairobi, sit with them, discuss these things with them, get the chairman of respective committees in his county, in the county assembly, sit with them with the members of parliament, talk it out, he will get a solution. Let him not carry the burden alone. Because you see, if he does not meet them, they will say, oh, yeye ndiye ameharibu. Let him come. Because leadership is not an easy thing. Call them, talk to them. Let them tell you their problems. And he will solve this problem very easily. But if he doesn't,
Mheshimiwa, now on the national, that is your message to His Excellency Governor Sakaja. I hope you've heard the advice and remarks from senior politician, the Honorable Fred Gumo. But back to national politics. There is the issue of fertilizer. You just said you're a farmer in Kitale. What is your take on that?
well, it's difficult to understand. You see, the problem nowadays in this country, trust. People are not trusted. You don't know who is doing what. People are given responsibilities and they mess you up. You see now, for example, fertilizer. When a farmer goes to serious board, he thinks that's the place he can get the best fertilizer. And then he finds that the fertilizer is now buying from there is the one which has been contaminated. So you don't understand. And it goes back to commitment. People are not committed to this country. Because if you ruin farmers, are you really committed to Kenya? And you have been given responsibilities. How does that fertilizer get into the stores without somebody in that store knowing? There must be some collusion between the guy who is bringing in bad fertilizer and this guy. You can blame Kenya Bureau of Standards. But Kenya Bureau of Standards only takes samples. When you bring in fertilizer, they take your sample, they go and check, and they give you a certificate that this fertilizer is okay. But what happens after that? Would they know?
No.
You wouldn't know. You can give them a good fertilizer and then you can bring rubbish. So it is this person who is receiving it. And if anybody complains, action should be taken. But you see, so far, nobody has taken action against these serious board people. Because they are the ones, how did they receive this fertilizer? And I don't know, because you see, then you start having blame games. You can say, oh, the minister, how? The minister, how will the minister be aware? The minister is sitting in his office there. If somebody sends this bad fertilizer to serious board, how will the minister know? Deal with the person who received it. Let him tell you where this fertilizer came from. It's not the minister. You know, in Kenya we like confusing things. Because you see, how does a minister know that the fertilizer that has been delivered in Nakuru is not good fertilizer? Unless he's told.
But the buck stops with him, Mheshimiwa.
Yes, But you see, the only problem he has is why is he not taking action against those people? You see, the moment you don't take action, then people think you know. That is his problem. Let him take action against those people. Let him take action against the MD, the CEO. The CEO takes action against the people who are in the stores.
The chain continues of command.
Yes, because you see now the minister can only take action against the CEO. And then the CEO takes action against. So you should ask the CEO, how did this fertilizer end up in your store? And then the CEO will ask the storesman. Because the minister cannot go to the storeman and ask him, the CEO.
You still have the doctors' strike. What is your take on that?
Well, it is a bit tricky because I don't know what's happening. But they need to agree. They must agree because you see people are really suffering. They must find a way of agreeing. You know, I know the problems are massive. They cannot be solved in one day. But they must get a middle ground somewhere and agree that, okay, we can do this and this we can't do. Or we shall do this gradually. The only problem the doctors are complaining about is that they have agreed before and it was never implemented.
The goodwill again.
The goodwill. That's the only thing. If they can agree and implement it, the better for us, for everybody.
Mheshimiwa, you've been now actively in politics. What has changed since you exited? And what pushed you to say, I'm retiring? Because I think you're one of the politicians who served this country for many years and decided one day to call a press and say, I am now retiring and I'm giving. We have not had such instances where senior politicians can come and say, my time is up and I want to retire. What made you think of retirement?
It has always been, it was always in my mind that when I get to 65, I retire. Because I wanted to retire when I was still active, when I'm able to organize my things. You see now, since I retired, it's 11 years. And I think I have done a lot more than I did in 30 years before that. Because I never had, you know, as a politician, you wake up in the morning, you want to do your things. The moment you get outside there, you get disorganized, you do nothing. Yeah. You think you are busy when you are not busy. So for you to have to do your own things, you need to have time. And you see, I'll tell you one thing. What made me retire mostly, although I had decided that by 65 I must retire, you knew the late Mheshimiwa Jeremiah Nyaga.
Yes.
When Jeremiah Nyaga retired from politics, he was 72 years old. And after that, I used to meet him quite often. He was spending most of his time with his grandchildren and whatnot. But he was not able to do much
After retirement.
after retirement because of the age. You see, because he was now 72 and then very quickly he was 75. And I think when he died he was about 80. Now I noticed, he used to be my neighbor before when he was a minister. He was my friend, we used to talk quite a lot. And I realized that when you retire, when you are very old, you can do very little. It's better to retire when you are still strong. So I decided to retire. I said, at 65, Tawaja. And when I got to 65, I left. And I think because of that, I have been able to do a lot since I was 65. I've done a lot of things and I'm still strong. I'm almost 80. I'm not yet 80 yet, but I'm almost there. So by the time I'm 80, I think I'll still be strong.
And you
Now,
still have a lot to offer this country, even at
yes,
retirement.
yes. So another 2 years, I'll be 80. Now, and I can see myself going on even further. But in politics,
The stress is too much.
it's too much.
So you're enjoying your retirement, Mheshimiwa,
I'm very happy.
and you are encouraging others to also consider that early retirement at 65 or whatever they plan.
Well, yes, but some people don't want. But you are happy because you see, there is very little you can do after you are 65 for the public.
That's
You
something we
can
have to-
run. You're told the president is I don't know where. You have to be there. You get home. There are meetings arranged for you. Those things are too hectic for an old man. It's not easy. So it's
Very
better
true.
to have it easy. Go when it is necessary.
Mheshimiwa, as we conclude, there is a famous name that you were given. We want to understand the genesis of Kaa Ngumu Kama Gumo, because growing up, that was the slogan. And we watched you, some of us who were very young, in primary, but we could hear Kaa Ngumu Kama Gumo. Where did that slogan start?
Yes, because you see, you must be straightforward and fearless. In politics, there are certain areas where you might not be able to reach because of your opponents. But this slogan started when opposition, when multi-party came. You see, Nairobi particularly was an opposition zone. I was the only KANU MP in Nairobi.
Ulikaa Ngumu.
Only KANU MP. And one time, there is another bishop who died in Bahati. And he was being buried. He used to be called Tairu, I think Bishop Tairu, something like that. And we wanted to go there for the funeral. He was being buried in Bahati, in his church. And we met at State House, and we were supposed to go to Bahati. We could not get to Bahati because it was just after 92 elections. Then we got to that country bus, Machakos country bus. Young people had closed the road. Opposition, young guys. And they said, the president cannot go through here. And indeed, we didn't go through there because it meant clearing those people would mean even killing people. So what Moi decided to do was to go back to Uhuru Highway, go through industrial area, and then come up to Bahati after St. Stephen's Church. Because you couldn't go through there, they had blocked us. So after that burial, we came back through the same way to State House. And as we were having a lunch, asked the president, now, Mr. President, how can this happen? You, a whole president, people block a road and say we cannot pass with the president. This is not right. It should not happen. I said, Gumo, achana na hiyo maneno tumeshamaliza nini. I said, no. We cannot allow this. And this is the capital. That means we are not in charge. Yeah. So he asked me, what can we do? I said, okay, give me time. I'll give you an answer. And I went there to that place. So I had organized my own team also. Then we went there with them. And some of them were very wild. They could not allow me to talk. I said, I must talk. And I talked to them. I said, despite all this, you cannot block the president of this country. And most of them were the Matiba supporters. They tell me, no, it's not attacking huyo mzee. Nikasema no. So I addressed them. Some of them listened. Then I went. Then later on, I collected some of the leaders in that area, talked to them. Said, what is your benefit
Blocking a president.
of blocking the president? Siasa tumeshamaliza. What is your problem? Sema hatutaki. Nikasema sisi mtataka. Tunaenda kusema. Then some of them kaambia nyinyi mnapiga makelele bure, mtakubali. Then I formed my own group inside there. After 1 month, I went and told Moi, now we can go to there. Now address how. So these boys are the ones who started saying that lazima mkae ngumu kama
Gumo.
Otherwise, Gumo anaenda president man. Na wakafungua ofisi ya Karu hapo kwa bus stage. Something that would never have happened. They opened it and I took Moi there to open it.
And that's how the name stuck.
That's how they are the ones who gave me that name.
Mzee, as we conclude, you're a member of ODM, and the party leader, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, has the bid for the AUC chairman job in Addis. What is your take? And we are seeing a lot of dynamics in the party. Some saying they are best shot to take over leadership from the Right Honorable Prime Minister. You being a high-ranking member of ODM, what is your take on this whole thing?
Well, first of all, we wish Raila well. And we pray for him that he gets that seat. That's more important to us now. Number two, the Raila has just announced elections, grassroots elections. What I would suggest is that we do our elections, grassroots. Let the two deputy leaders act until we do our elections. After grassroots elections, let us elect the party leader with the new people. We should be able to get a leader because it's not difficult. But if somebody thinks it's going to say, I must be, then that's going to break the party. Let us have elections. And it will be very easy to elect a leader.
Mheshimiwa, the problems we are also facing as a country now, not ODM, is that we are moving into more of regions. Because you come and say, perhaps I'm bringing the Luya vote, that I'm bringing this. We are still fixated on that. How do we overcome this menace?
You see, that will not be easy. That will not be easy. It will have to be there. But as long as we are not able to elect somebody democratically, we shall have problems. There will be a breakaway. And you see, leadership, you have to show the members that you can lead the party. It's not because of your people. It's the leadership that sometimes we lack. You see, Raila has never had a serious opposition in the party. Because that party, when we started, we were with him, and he took the leadership because he's the one who started the party. So he has never had any serious opposition in the party. And he's also focused and hardworking. You can see his leadership. So nobody opposes him. But you see, not everybody can be like him.
So they come out after the grassroots election and you vote as a party democratically. That would be your message.
You see, Raila has shown his leadership. So people accept. But they're not going to accept anybody else the way they accept him. No. It's not possible. So we must organize ourselves and accept that we do an election and we elect somebody. Because Raila himself was never elected. People just accepted him and said, you lead us. And he has done it very well. You think everybody will, who will do that, like, who will lead that party like the way Raila does it? It's not easy. It's completely different.
That's why critics are saying if Raila leaves, the Right Honorable, the party will crumble if your party does not get someone coherent who will hold everyone together. Mheshimiwa, now as we conclude, because I would want you to give the parting shot to the president and the government, your just advice to the government. The last question is in your backyard in Western. What is your take in Western now with upcoming young leaders coming up and the community at large bringing up young leaders, others who are in leadership and others who are not? What is your advice to the people of Western who are watching this interview?
Well, Western, you know, there is this thing that has always been around the Western people, that Luyas are not united. Me, I don't believe in that. People unite behind a leader. It is the leader who makes them united. The problem with Western is we have never had a serious leader whom people are rallying behind. People who fight for their rights. You know, you have to fight for your people to lead. We have never had that one. That is the biggest problem. When you fight for your people, it becomes very easy for you to become their leader. If you look at these people who become, even RUTO, for him to become the leader of Rift Valley, it's because he fought for them. He just didn't get it. If you look at Uhuru, when people declared that Uhuru is their leader, he fought for them. During the 2007, he fought for them. And they saw that he could lead. Raila has always fought for the Luos. That's why he was always saying, okay, you lead us. But in Western, you tell him he was fought for the Luyas. Hard. Kuna? Maybe the elder ones like Makina Masinde Muluru and so on. Those ones used to fight for their people. But these ones have never fought for their people. So unless you come out openly and you say you are fighting for their rights, then they will follow you. That's what we have lacked. So when you find these young men coming up and trying to fight, they are seeing a vacuum. You see, the moment you see there's a vacuum and you want to fill it, that is why you have these people like Natembea fighting, people like Hamisi and so on, those younger people, because there's a vacuum.
So your rallying call to the community is?
Let those leaders, it's only leaders.
The community has no problem.
The community has no problem.
It's lack of leadership.
Yeah, because people want, when they come here, they know, nikifika kwa Gumo, tabu yangu imekwisha. Nipeleke tu kwa Gumo, atamaliza tabu yangu. But when people don't have that feeling, you can never lead them.
Your parting shot, you can look at this camera, your advice to the current president and his regime and the government in totality, as a veteran politician who served in this country in different portfolios, what would be your advice to His Excellency the President?
I think the President is in the right track, but he needs to be firm. He only needs to be firm and make sure that what he says is implemented. And make sure that when he talks about against corruption, he makes sure that he's firm against corruption. Because this country has so much, has a lot of resources. If he can just fight corruption, focus his energy on corruption and make sure that at least half of it, just half, and particularly the people he has put in positions. If he makes sure that the people he has appointed are not corrupt, he will have done 90% of the work. Because if those people are not corrupt, they will help him to fight corruption. Because they will have accepted. But without that, because wananchi are very sensitive about corruption, Wananchi are very sensitive when they see someone who didn't have anything yesterday. Today, because of the position he has been given, they don't have to see him being bribed, but they look at actions. They say this man tulikuwa tunakula naye hapa ugali juzi, sasa amekuwa namna gani mkubwa namna hii. You know, they look at such things. You see, then you begin hearing rumors that so-and-so has bought a helicopter, so-and-so has bought this. So you see, that sort of thing. Number two, when he puts anybody in charge of a certain project, let him do it. Let him appoint capable people and let them do those projects he wants. Because you see, he has got a lot of projects in mind. He's a very intelligent man and very hardworking. But what I don't know is whether the people he has appointed are really assisting him seriously. Let him make sure that the people he has appointed are assisting him. Because he cannot do everything. He knows a lot. He works very hard. But even if you work hard and you have people whom you have given jobs to do are not assisting you, you can never see this work. So I would just advise him to make sure that the people he has appointed deal with those ones first. I have given you a job, you must do it, you must deliver. Then there will be some of these things. If he finds that person has given is getting a lot of opposition from other people, let him intervene and say, I support this thing. And it will work. Huh? Like now, even in the police, today people, you know, you find, how on earth can you get an ordinary young man fighting a policeman until he takes a gun? That means there is no discipline. A policeman, people must run away from him. But if they are able to hold him and fight him, serikali gani hiyo? Sasa unadharau serikali. During our days, if a gun was taken away from a policeman, that particular area is calm. Watu wanachapwa mpaka hiyo bunduki inatoka. No, but it's true. Sasa kama unaweza kunyang'anya polisi bunduki, alafu wanasema we are still looking for it. Looking for it how? Na iko hapo. Watu watandikwe mpaka hiyo bunduki itoke. But that's true. Huwezi kusema ati democracy na mtu ana adabu anaenda kunyang'anya polisi bunduki. You know, there are certain things that order must be done. If you go to places like Rwanda, you can say Kagame, but you see, he's strict. He makes sure things work. Mtu anaenda kwake, watu kama sasa hapa kwa city commission, watu wanalipa pesa kubeba takataka na hawabebi na wanalipwa. So ni kitu, ukimpa mtu kazi afanye kazi. Kama hawezi kufanya, toa yeye, weka mwingine. Watu Kenyans ni waoga number 1. Ukitoa 2, 3, wale watafanya kazi kama punde. They're cowards. Lakini kama unawaachilia tu wacheze, I'm telling you, they will work. If he's firm, they will work. And I know RUTO can do it. Sijui kwa nini anaregea, because I have worked with him. His stuff, he can do it. I know he can do it. Ni support tu anataka ile yaku. But he can do those things. Mimi nakuambia hivi vitu ambaye nakuambia, he can do it. Na Kenya ukifanya hiyo vitu watu watafanya kazi. Ukiwa firm, wanafanya. Hata huyu gavana mimi namwambia kila siku, be firm, fanya kazi. Ita watu ambao wanalalamika, talk to them. Unajua watu, if they can advise you and you follow that advice, your work becomes easier. Easy.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Fred Gumo, for creating time to come to ABTV Kenya to just have this discussion with you. I'm sure viewers, you've learned a lot from the Honorable Gumo. And to the young politicians and young Kenyans, please learn from what Mheshimiwa Gumo has said, that there will never be the perfect time, but you start from where you are, and you do not need money. What you need is commitment, the zeal and the passion, and that we must all work to endeavor to make Kenya a better country. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Gumo. Thank you.